Here are some of the top criminals. Number 8. Ted Kaczynski. Ted Kaczynski, also known as the Unabomber, was an American criminal who conducted a 17-year bombing campaign, resulting in 3 deaths and 23 injuries, all in an attempt to bring about a revolution against the industrial system. Kaczynski displayed exceptional mathematical aptitude from a young age. He attended Harvard University at 16, completed his undergraduate degree in 1962, and earned a Ph.D. in mathematics from the University of Michigan in 1967. In 1978, Kaczynski briefly moved to the Chicago area and took a job at his brother's factory, during which the first Unabomber package exploded, injuring a police officer. Kaczynski continued his bombing campaign, primarily targeting universities. Federal investigators established the Unabomb Task Force, and media outlets named him the Unabomber. His brother David Kaczynski recognized elements of the manifesto and contacted federal investigators, ultimately leading to Ted Kaczynski's arrest in 1996. On January 22, 1998, Ted Kaczynski pleaded guilty to the charges against him in exchange for a life sentence in prison without the possibility of parole.
I almost always succeeded in avoiding meeting people in the woods. I would keep off the trails and keep toward the most isolated parts.
Number 7. Charles Manson. Charles Manson was born on November 12, 1934, Cincinnati, Ohio, US, and died on November 19, 2017. Kern County, California, was an American criminal and cult leader known for notorious murders in the late 1960s. Manson's troubled upbringing included living with an aunt and uncle in West Virginia after his mother was imprisoned for armed robbery. He had a history of juvenile reformatories and prison for various crimes. In 1967, Manson moved to San Francisco and attracted followers, forming the family. In 1969, the family carried out several murders on Manson's orders, including the infamous killing of an actress and 3 others in her Los Angeles home. The trial of Manson and his followers in 1970 gained national attention. Manson was initially sentenced to death but had his sentence commuted to life in prison following the abolition of capital punishment in California in 1972.
From 2 or 3 other symbols. I didn't want to put a Christian symbol, and I didn't want to put an Antichrist symbol, and I didn't want to put a pro-communism.
Number 6. Pablo Escobar. Pablo Emilio Escobar Gaviria was born on the 1st of December 1949 in Rio Negro, Colombia, and died on December 2, 1993 in Medellin. He was the head of the Medellin Cartel, one of the world's most powerful drug trafficking organizations during the 1980s and early 90s. Dodgera's criminal activities began at a young age, including selling fake diplomas, smuggling stereo equipment, and stealing tombstones for resale. He played a pivotal role in the growth of the cocaine industry in Colombia, particularly in the production, transport, and sale of cocaine. By the mid-1980s, Escobar's wealth was estimated at around $25 billion, billionaring him to lead a lavish lifestyle and own a vast estate called Hacienda Napoles. His victims included rival drug traffickers, government officials, policemen, and civilians. Escobar surrendered to authorities in June 1991 and was jailed, but his imprisonment had little impact on his criminal activities. He built a luxurious prison called La Catedral, equipped with various amenities. After escaping custody, in July 1992, a manhunt was launched to capture him. His death marked the collapse of the Medellin cartel. Number 5. Al Capone. Al Capone, also known as Scarface, was an American Prohibition-era gangster who dominated organized crime in Chicago from 1925 to 1931. He was born on January 17, 1899 in Brooklyn, New York, and was the 4th of 9 children. Capone dropped out of school at age 14 and worked various odd jobs while being associated with delinquent children's gangs in New York. Capone earned the nickname Scarface after being slashed on his left cheek during a scrape at the Harvard Inn. He was involved in violent incidents, including shooting a man to death during a neighborhood craps game and assaulting a member of the rival White Hand Gang. Capone became crime czar of Chicago after Torrio's retirement and expanded his criminal empire through gambling, prostitution, and bootlegging. Number 4. Ted Bundy. Ted Bundy, in full Theodore Robert Bundy, American serial killer and rapist, one of the most notorious criminals of the late 20th century. Bundy had a difficult childhood Despite this apparent stability, he killed several young women in Washington, Oregon, Colorado, Utah, and Florida between 1974 and 1978. Although he would ultimately confess to 28 murders, some estimated that he was responsible for hundreds of deaths. Following a well-publicized trial, he was sentenced to death in 1979 for the murder of 2 college students. Bundy was executed in Florida's electric chair in 1989. Despite the appalling nature of his crimes, Bundy became something of a celebrity, particularly following his escape from custody in Colorado in 1977. Number 3. John Dillinger, American criminal, most famous bank robber in US history. Known for a series of robberies and escapes from June 1933 to July 1934. Born on June 22, 1903 in Indianapolis, Indiana, and died on July 22, 1934 in Chicago, Illinois. Had a difficult childhood. Mother died when he was 3, strained relationship with stepmother. Dropped out of school, family relocated to Mooresville, but it had little effect on his behavior. Joined the Navy in 1923, but deserted after a few months. Caught in the foiled holdup of a Mooresville grocer in September 1924. Served much of the next decade in Indiana State Prison. Learned the craft of bank robbery from fellow inmates while incarcerated. Paroled on May 10, 1933 and began a series of bank robberies in Indiana and Ohio to gain notoriety as a daring, sharply dressed gunman. Number 2. Thomas Horn Jr. November 21, 1860 November 20, 1903, was a prominent American scout, cowboy, soldier, range detective, and Pinkerton agent during the late 19th and early 20th centuries in the American Old West. He gained notoriety for being believed to have committed 17 killings as a hired gunman across the western United States. In 1902, he was convicted of the murder of 14-year-old Willie Nickel near Iron Mountain. Thomas Horn was executed by hanging in Cheyenne, Wyoming on the day before his 43rd birthday. While in jail, he penned his autobiography titled Life of Tom Horn, Government Scout and Interpreter, which was published posthumously in 1904 and has seen numerous editions in the late 20th century. His life and actions have made him a larger-than-life figure in Western folklore, and to this day there is debate surrounding his guilt in Willie Nickel's murder. Number 1. Andrew Cunanan. Andrew Cunanan was born in San Diego, California. He settled in San Francisco's Castro district and associated with older, wealthy gay men, while heavily involved in drug use. He embarked on a cross-country killing spree, committing 5 known murders, with the last victim being fashion designer Gianni Versus. Andrew Cunanan took his own life on a Miami houseboat on July 23, 1997.
Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from Knowledge Matrix, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.